At approximately 5:30 on that fateful Sunday evening, Beverly strode through the front door, her purse and keys clattering onto the wingback chair. She then proceeded down the hall directly to the master bedroom. Whether she registered my presence in the den was inconsequential. Over the past few years, I had faded into an almost spectral existence for her. I rose, collected her keyring, and deftly removed the spare keys she possessed for my Toyota. Next, I delved into her purse, extracting her cell phone and billfold. From the latter, every last dollar and credit card vanished into my pocket. For good measure, her driver's license joined the spoils. Then I retreated to my vigil in the den. By the way, please like and subscribe if you enjoy stories like this. 15 minutes later, Bev re-emerged, impeccably dressed. Catching sight of me as she slung her purse over her shoulder and retrieved her keys, she declared, "I'm going out with the girls from work. Don't wait up." "No, you're not going out with the girls from work," I countered, my voice a low rumble. "Jack, you should know by now that you don't control me. I will do whatever I please," she snapped, her eyes flashing. "I didn't say you couldn't go out with the girls from work. What I said was that you're not going out with the girls from work. You're going to be with your boyfriend, so don't lie to me anymore, Beverly." A tense silence hung in the air for a few seconds. Then, with a defiant stride, she entered the den and halted across from me, her ultimatum hanging in the air. "Okay, Jack, so you know, I would have preferred to do this differently, but we might as well get this over with. Jack, you have two options. You can salvage what's left of this marriage by going along with the program, or you can choose to have me divorce you and clean you out. What's it going to be?" "I choose door number 3, I replied, a chilling grin spreading across my face. "Don't be childish, there is no door number 3. Either accept that I have a lover now, a real man for a change, or prepare to suffer the consequences, and I do mean suffer." I rose, moved towards Bev, seized her shoulders, and pressed her against the wall. With my nose mere inches from her face and a deadness in my eyes, I meticulously wiggled her engagement and wedding rings from her left hand. "Oh, there's a door number 3, all right," I whispered, the words laced with ice. "It's right over there. It's my front door, and when you walk through it, it will be for the last time. You leave with the clothes on your back and you never cross the threshold again. You don't get a dime more of my money. You will lose your husband, your daughter, your house, your money, your car, and your job eventually." "You live in a fantasy world, Jack," she mumbled, a tremor in her voice. "My lawyer will tear you to pieces. I'm having the divorce papers served to you at work tomorrow. If you hurt me, you will suffer that much more." I pulled her shoulders away from the wall and frog-marched her to the front door. Stumbling in her high heels, she shrieked incoherently as I propelled her outside. Bev barely managed to keep her footing, her composure utterly shattered. In our entire marriage, I had never laid a hand on her, and she was utterly bewildered. Standing in the front yard, she began to regain her voice, at which point I slammed the door shut and engaged the new locks. As Bev's car screeched away, I made the first of 2 crucial calls. I dialed my 19-year-old daughter away at college. "Honey, this is your dad. Things have finally come to a head with your mother. She's probably going to be living with her boyfriend, and I wanted to be the first to talk to you. I want you to know that I have our last conversation recorded, along with hours and hours of previous arguments. They are available for you to hear, so please remember that you have access to the truth when she tries to twist things around and blame me, and she will do that, sweetheart. The truth is, your mother is an adulteress. I don't know how many times she has been with other men, but this time she has found one she is willing to throw our family away for. As I will explain to you soon, that probably means that he is a fairly dangerous person, so be very careful in your dealings with your mom." I then asked Patty if she could come home that weekend so we could talk and she could listen to the recordings if she wished. Patty readily agreed to drive home on Friday afternoon. My next call was to Martha, our neighbor at the end of the block. Martha was a war widow in her mid-30s. "Martha, this is Jack. If the offer is still open, I'd like to take you up on it. Can you come over in an hour or so?" I despise lengthy sagas of troubled marriages, so I'll keep this one concise. Bev and I met and married in our early 20s, and we had one daughter, Patty. For a couple of years, things were idyllic, but the novelty seemed to wear off for Bev rather quickly. As time wore on, she became shrewish in the most insidious ways. She transformed into a chronic complainer, a cunning manipulator, and an unforgiving taskmaster. I did my utmost to hold my tongue and improve things for her, but it seemed the more I tried, the worse it became. Indeed, I now believe I inadvertently fueled my own misery by constantly attempting to appease Bev all those years. I now wish I had acted differently, seizing control of her and the situation much earlier. So, in our mid-40s, things had spiraled completely out of control. When I grew suspicious of Bev and conducted a brief investigation, I swiftly uncovered her boyfriend, and the revelations were shocking. She had taken up with a hulking ex-convict with a documented history of violence against women. I don't believe Bev initially realized it, but her paramour had at least 2 other women ensnared before she came along. The man's name of all things is Sylvester, though he is of course known as Sly. I was utterly floored when I discovered his identity, yet in a perverse way it also made perfect sense to me. Once I knew the marriage was truly beyond salvage, a profound sense of relief washed over me, and I began to meticulously plan. I've read tales where the wronged husband takes half the money. Not me. I seized every last damn penny I could lay my hands on, including whatever cash I could unearth around the house. I changed the locks, naturally, and I had plans to torment Bev as much as humanly possible in a very short span of time. My marriage, you see, had inadvertently taught me a great deal about her reactions, and I intended to weaponize her volatile temper against her. She was a dangerous woman in many respects, but this time she would become a danger to herself as well. My planning, in fact, commenced long before I unearthed the truth about her lover and the impending end. For a couple of years I had been recording our arguments. She believed the device I always carried was a simple MP3 player, but in reality I was meticulously building a comprehensive library of her erratic behavior for future documentation. I knew that no one would ever believe my stories unless I possessed irrefutable proof, especially since she only unleashed her vitriol upon me when we were alone. Around others, including our daughter, she was the epitome of sweetness. I wanted to expose her true nature to everyone, including all friends and family. On the Monday following our Sunday confrontation, I orchestrated a celebration in the company break room. A large banner proudly proclaimed "Happy Divorce" overhead. Cake and ice cream awaited, and I eagerly anticipated the arrival of the process server. Lucky me, it turned out to be a plump young woman tasked with the dirty work. Countless pictures were snapped as my coworkers and I reveled in the serving of the divorce papers. I had my picture taken accepting the papers and playfully kissing the server on the cheek, who was sporting a party hat at the time. Another shot depicted me feeding her a forkful of cake, both of us beaming. Once the party concluded, I emailed the pictures to Bev, along with those of the celebration. I also included a couple of myself and Martha, my neighbor, in my bed, sheets pulled up to our necks, broad smiles plastered across our faces. I hoped Bev would notice her wedding rings prominently displayed on Martha's left hand as they rested on my chest. Within the hour, an enraged call shattered the silence. "You liar! My lawyer will have you for lunch with these pictures. What a fool you are." "Not likely, Bev. There's nothing obscene or incriminating in those shots. No nudity, just 2 neighbors pulling a prank. Just joke pics, that's all." "We'll see about that, Jack. I'm coming by the house tonight to get some of my things. I think it would be better if you weren't there." If I'm not there, you won't be able to get in. All the locks have been changed. If you want anything, you have to get there well before 6:45. Martha and I have a date at 7 p.m., and I sure as hell don't want to be late. Last night I had the best experience I've ever had, and there's more to come tonight." Then I hung up and didn't answer when she called back 5 times. At 4:30 that afternoon, I drove to the parking lot at Bev's work. I wanted to arrive before people started leaving for home. I had ensured there was no surveillance on the lot, and what I had to do would take less than a minute. I pulled in next to Bev's car and slipped around it, expertly clipping the valve stems on all her tires with a wire cutter. Oh, she'd be furious, plus she'd never get it fixed in time to reach the house before 6:45. But it was about 6:35 when she appeared. She had apparently hitched a ride with someone, a clear sign of her desperation to get into the house. After all, I had seen receipts for clothes she'd bought that I knew she hadn't brought home, so she had to have plenty of clothing at her lover's place. She must have wanted something else. I slipped out the back door and hustled down to Martha's house, leaving Bev pounding on the front door and screaming. When I returned that evening, my front door window was shattered, blood splattered around it. After reviewing the surveillance video from the front porch, I called the police. The video clearly showed Bev smashing the window with a tire iron, apparently pilfered from her friend's car. You could plainly hear her threatening to kill me as she broke the glass and reached inside. Unluckily for her, the deadbolt I had installed was the kind that required a key to open from either side. When she pulled her arm back through, she sliced up her forearm quite badly, which prompted another round of screaming and threats from her. I reported the incident to the police immediately, and one of the officers kindly guided me through the process of filing for protection. By the next morning, Bev was served papers prohibiting her from coming within 500 feet of me or our house. To say she was pissed off would be a gross understatement. "What do you think you're doing, you jerk?" That's how her next phone call began. She was livid and threatened me again. I had the entire conversation recorded, unbeknownst to her. Hours later, after she'd calmed down somewhat, she called again. She said she was sending her friend Lindsay over that evening to collect some of her stuff. What was she so desperate to have from the house, I pondered. So I agreed to receive Lindsay at 5:30 that Tuesday evening. I left work a bit early so I could set up a video camera in my bedroom with a monitor in the middle bedroom. Lindsay arrived precisely on time, and I was exceedingly cordial. I sat on the bed as she loaded some clothes into 2 black plastic trash bags. Lindsay glanced at me nervously, then asked if I'd get her some water from the kitchen. I smiled and walked into the middle bedroom. As soon as I looked at the monitor, I saw Lindsay sneak a shoebox from the closet into the bag nearest her. Then she went back to selecting clothes. I quickly grabbed a glass of water from the kitchen and returned to the bedroom. "I think that'll do it," she said. "Would you grab that bag and I'll take this one?" "Oh, that one looks heavier, Lindsay. Let me take it," I replied, a subtle challenge in my voice. No, we're fine. Just grab the other one." "Okay. Is there something in that one I should know about, Lindsay?" I asked as she started to fidget and drag her bag toward the door. I held her wrist and pulled the bag open. "It's just clothes and stuff Bev needs," she said anxiously. "You're a particularly bad liar, Lynn. What's in this box I'm feeling down in here? You want to tell me about this?" I pulled the shoebox out and opened it. The box was packed with bundles of $50 and $100 bills, all well used. "Lindsay, you're trying to steal from me." I stood and pulled her arm behind her, marching her toward the door and down the hall. "That's Bev's money. She sent me here to get it." "I'm not stealing anything." "Well, you came into my house to get clothes and I caught you walking out with a box of money. I call that stealing. I didn't see Beverly's name on that box. You're a thief, Lindsay. I'm going to call the cops right now." "No, Jack, don't do that. I can't go to jail. I have kids and a husband, for Christ's sake. I sat Lindsay down on the couch and got right in her face. Lindsay, you're not welcome in this house ever again. I thought you were my friend too, but now I know you're a thief. She pleaded with me some more and she began to cry. If you want to redeem yourself, you have one chance. You will leave this house and report to Bev that I caught you stealing. Then you will report to me everything that you hear or see, especially anything related to our divorce or her activities with Sly. You won't let her know anything about our arrangement. Bev is making a really bad decision taking up with this loser, and you will ultimately be helping her to get away from him if you cooperate with me. And Lindsay, I have the whole episode on video and I can call the cops at any time. Lindsay reluctantly agreed to be my mole. As soon as she was gone, I took the box of money and went to Martha's house down the block. She agreed to hold it for me until I could get it safely tucked away where Bev could never find it. I knew where the money had likely come from. Bev's Aunt Mabel had been a notorious miser, and when she died a few months back, Bev had been her only heir. I knew that her aunt had left a small cabin in a rural area to her, but nothing was ever said about money. Apparently, when Bev inspected the cabin after the will was read, she'd found her aunt's cash stashed there. When my wife called, screaming, I recorded the conversation, but I was careful about what I said. That money is mine, Jack. I want my damned money. Bev, I don't know what you're talking about. I caught Lindsay trying to steal cash from my bedside table. That's my money. You know damned well what I'm talking about. The money in the shoebox, and it's mine. It's from Aunt Mabel. I inherited it. Well, maybe Lindsay did find some money in a shoebox, but if she did, she must have taken it with her and kept it. I don't have it. Maybe Lindsay stole it from you. And if you had some money here that I didn't know about, then you didn't report it on your taxes last year. I know since I read over and signed the tax returns. You can call the police to come investigate, and then we'll let the IRS know that this money, if it exists, didn't get reported. She slammed the phone down. There would be some sort of retribution. I knew it. I'd pushed Bev's buttons too hard for there not to be. She couldn't afford to be caught near the house due to the restraining order. Since I'd started by sabotaging her car, I thought she might try to get back at me through my car. So I had a camera installed on the dashboard, but that wasn't enough. I wanted clear shots of her doing the deed, if that was the route she decided to take. So when I parked in the parking garage on Wednesday morning, I set up a camera outside the car, shielded from view. This camera transmitted video that I could monitor at my desk. An hour before lunchtime, I watched the laptop as Bev parked her car behind mine, got out and began pounding my car with a hammer. She broke every window and dented every fender. I winced a bit as the camera caught her smashing the windshield and screaming, "I'm going to bash in your head." I dialed 911 and had a cop car waiting for her as she emerged from the parking garage. When I showed them the video in my wrecked Toyota, they cuffed Bev and took her to jail. It was apparent that she'd done enough damage to qualify for a felony. The resisting arrest charge was gravy. She turned to look at me with a pleading expression as they took her away, and I just stared at her, unwavering. Bev's divorce lawyer had called me on Wednesday to inform me there was a hearing before a magistrate on access to the money I'd liberated from our joint accounts. It was scheduled for Thursday at 10 a.m. I was in the small courtroom at 9:50, wondering if Bev had made bail. She came in with her lawyer right on time, a smug look on her face. Bev's lawyer addressed the judge. "Your Honor, my client has been cut off from the bank account she has shared with her husband. He unlawfully removed all the money after she filed for divorce. We are asking the court for a 50-50 split at this time." "Mr. Reynolds, do you have anything to say?" "Yes, Your Honor. My adulterous wife has ample funds of her own that she's been siphoning off from our joint accounts for months. The money I removed was reasonable compensation since I am responsible for house payments and bills. She abandoned our marriage and moved in with the man she is cheating on me with. Bev shot up. That's a lie. He took all the money out of our savings and checking. He didn't leave me a dime. I don't have anything. Bev's lawyer took her arm and pulled her back into her seat. They had a brief conference while I passed the paperwork to the judge. Your Honor, these are banking records for the past year. You'll note the amounts up until a few months ago include Bev's paychecks, shown in yellow highlight. Also, there are periodic bonuses shown in orange highlight. Then, about 6 months ago, her checks stopped being deposited in the joint account, and her bonuses also disappeared. I have a recording of my chat with her personnel office if you care to hear it that verifies her direct deposit was altered at that time. The total amount diverted from our joint account is in the thousands of dollars, Your Honor. So clearly my adulterous wife has ample funds, all stolen from our marriage. His Honor looked at the bank statements and then peered over his spectacles at Beverly. Do you have anything to say about this, Miss Reynolds? Bev's lawyer slowly rose and spoke. Your Honor, the fact that my client may have some funds of her own does not free Mr. Reynolds of responsibility to give her her due. Well, Counselor, I don't like it when people lie to me. Mr. Reynolds stated that she was destitute, which I knew was bull when she walked in here with a pricey fellow like you in tow. Now we see that she is amply funded by money that should have been community property, and she tried to deceive both her husband and the court about that fact. As Mr. Reynolds is paying the bills out of his funds, I see no reason to change any financial arrangements at this time. When the divorce settlement is finalized, the assets will be declared and divided accordingly. Case dismissed. Bev caught me in the hallway as I was leaving. I immediately began recording as she spoke. I'll get you, you bastard. I'm gonna tear you down. Bev, you're not supposed to be within 500 feet of me. I'll call the cops if you don't move. By the way, how did you like jail? Are you ready to spend a lot more time there? You've got a felony charge pending. I could tell she wanted to take a swing at me, but I just kept moving down the hall toward the door, and she stood there with her fist balled up and her face contorted and red. That evening, I went to a local bar, not my usual hangout, but it was a place I'd met an interesting guy a month earlier. The reason the fellow was interesting was that he had a truly dreadful car. Luckily, Zeke was there at his usual bar stool. Hey, man, I remember you. What's your name again? Not important, Zeke. Hey, do you still have that piece of car? Oh, God, yes, I hate that thing. The wife took the good one when she ran off with that creep in a suit. Now the AC is out on it and I'm dying in this heat. Nobody will buy it, and it's the only way I have to get around. She took all the money, and my credit is bad. Do you have your insurance paid up on it? If you do, I might be able to help you unload it and get something better. I'm all ears, bro, he replied, leaning forward. Suppose you were driving down, say, 38th Street, and a gray cat suddenly ran out in front of you. You naturally slam on the brakes and say a lady was following you too close and crashed into the back of your dog-ass car. At anything over 15 miles an hour, you'd be totaled. If you had your head braced against the headrest and your seatbelt on, you'd be okay physically. Insurance would cover your loss and you could at least get a vehicle with AC. Yeah, but what if the person who hit me got hurt? I couldn't do that to some poor schnook, he answered, a flicker of apprehension in his eyes. Well, I could guarantee you that the person would be an unfaithful wife with no one else in the car if you were to follow my instructions. What would you say to that? Oh man, that would be great. I can't stand unfaithful people, and I sure need to unload this wreck of a car. Park at the corner of 38th and Lessing by 5 p.m. tomorrow. Look to your left, and when you see a blue Miata pull out of the parking lot and head your way, get in front of her. She's a tailgating woman, so drive a block or so until she's on your ass. Then you see the cat crossing the road, so brace and hit your brakes hard. Just stay in the car afterward, dial 911 and tell the EMS boys you think you might have whiplash. And by the way, I never met you. I'll never be in this bar again, and we don't know each other. Man, you're cold, he replied, a strange mix of fear and excitement in his eyes. Not as cold as the AC in your new ride, I answered, and then I left. I left work early on Friday to meet my daughter at home. She had finished her classes and hurried back to town as we had arranged. On Sunday night, we talked for a while about the divorce situation, and I played her the recording of her mother and me in our door number 3 conversation. Patty was appalled to hear the ruthless tone of her mother and the demands she made. Then I played Patty a selection of the recordings I'd made over the previous 2 years, and she heard a side of Bev that she hadn't realized existed. What do you know about this guy she's with, Dad? I know he's bad news and you must stay away from him. If you absolutely must encounter your mother, ensure it's in a public space, surrounded by others. I can't predict what he might unleash upon you in his twisted pursuit of me. In any case, always safeguard yourself, especially if there's even a whisper of his presence. Dad, I interjected, a tremor in my voice. I knew you and Mom faced challenges, but I never grasped the true depths of your despair. What in God's name transpired between you two? It was a question I anticipated, and I launched into a torrent of words, laying bare my perspective. Here's a truncated version of that agonizing revelation. Patty, as I understand it now, your mother and I harbored fundamentally disparate visions for a marriage. I've plumbed the depths of this quandary and forged a theory, one likely explored and penned by countless others before me, yet it remains my own hard-won insight. There exist 4 foundational paradigms for the distribution of authority within a relationship. First, the rudderless vessel. Neither party seizes the helm and the union simply drifts, adrift in a sea of indecision. Then there's the dual command. Both individuals assume responsibility. Perhaps they clash relentlessly over dominion, or perhaps they meticulously carve out their territories, each presiding over distinct facets of the relationship. Some even manage to share authority with perfect equilibrium, a utopian ideal I once held as I embarked on my own marital journey. It did not unfold that way. Another path sees the man in command. This can, under specific constellations, prove functional. I know in our enlightened age, patriarchal dynamics often bear the stigma of abuse and subjugation. Yet, if the man is utterly devoted to his partner, it can mirror a fairy tale, a life of wondrous ease for a woman of the right temperament. She would float through existence unburdened by arduous choices, secure in the unwavering protection of her chosen man. Consider your maternal grandparents, Granny, perpetually meek as a mouse, and your grandfather, heavy-handed, dictatorial, and occasionally cruel. That, I now realize, is the blueprint your mother absorbed, the dynamic she craved in our own union. So when I attempted to share the summit with her, she began to perceive me as feeble. The more I yielded, the deeper her contempt festered. This brings me to the final, most chilling prospect, the wife-dominant relationship. I believe your mother, perceiving my failure to embody her caveman ideal, resolved to seize absolute control. She became tyrannical. She decreed which projects would commence, and woe betide me if they failed to meet her exacting standards. I cannot recount the countless instances she'd assign a task, then stand over me, micromanaging every swing of the hammer, every turn of the screwdriver. It mirrored the sheer volume of projects left unfinished, for I simply could not endure being treated as an indentured servant within my own home. It was utterly dehumanizing, intolerable. You see, when the wife dominates, it often transgresses against the very fabric of human nature. I struggle to conceive how such a power imbalance can truly thrive. A husband can reign supreme and still cradle profound love and affection for his wife. But a wife, I believe, inevitably loses respect for any man she subjugates. This, I contend, is precisely what transpired between us. When I finally awakened to the unfolding tragedy and began to resist, Beverly did not interpret my defiance as a reclaiming of my rightful place. By then, she had already branded me a coward. My refusal to kowtow to her commands was merely perceived as the petulance of a rebellious child. I could never reclaim her respect. This divorce, I believe, is my last desperate gamble to regain it. So when you witness the lengths to which I go, the harshness I must inflict upon her, you will comprehend my motives. Addie, soon you will find your life partner. When you navigate the monumental decisions, children, careers, homes, ensure you both confront the thorny issue of authority. Be certain you and your chosen mate understand the expectations and, above all, guarantee mutual respect. Otherwise, you will both descend into misery, and you may well find yourselves ensnared in the very same nightmare Bev and I now inhabit. I will, Dad, I promise. A short while later, the phone shrieked, Mr. Reynolds, this is Memorial Hospital. Your wife has been in a car wreck. She's stable, not gravely injured, but she'll remain with us at least overnight. Addie and I drove to the hospital. I let her enter the room first. Patty didn't linger. When she emerged, her face etched with grim concern, I suspected a torrent of harsh words had already been exchanged. You look like hell, Bev, I said, a faint, bitter smile playing on my lips. Quite a week, huh? First, you lose your marriage, your husband, your home. Then you're served with a restraining order and arrested for a felony. Then you lose out on money you'd been counting on. Now your car's wrecked, and you're laid up in the hospital with a broken wrist and your face blasted by an airbag. I think this divorce is shaping up far better for me. I've even got a great woman waiting for me any time I want it. Go to hell, she spat. Hey, Bev, where's old Sly? Hasn't come to visit yet? No worries, he's probably with one of his other women right now. She blanched. You probably didn't know about the others when you started all this, did you? Looks like you do now. Wonder how long it'll be before he wants you to service one of them. I never thought of you as a rug muncher, but it's probably a good skill to learn, seeing as how you'll need it in jail. I'm not going to jail. My lawyer will get those bogus charges dropped. Really? Because when I spoke to that DA, he indicated he was going to throw the book at you. He's got photographic evidence and he has an election coming up. He wants to look really tough on crime right about now. I think he'll ask for the max. She just sat there staring blankly. Hey, what car insurance company did you decide to go with? I asked, feigning casual interest. Car insurance? What do you mean? We have the same old... She trailed off. You mean you didn't get covered this week when you filed on me? I dropped your car from the insurance. Surely you knew that. I mean, you demanded that your Miata have only your name on the title, so it is your responsibility, honey. If you didn't get coverage this week, you're really in trouble. You'll have a couple of tickets to pay, towing charges, and 3 years of payments to make. You might not be able to afford another vehicle, and that Miata will be sitting in the back corner of some junkyard for eternity while you're still paying for it. But you might not need another car since you won't have a job after you get convicted of a felony. Plus, the guy you hit may have medical bills and his insurance company is going to come after you for damages. Holy hell. But at least you have your health care covered, right? I'm on your... she began. No, I dropped you off my health insurance on Monday. You didn't get that changed either, baby. You are so screwed. An ambulance ride, emergency room visit, x-rays, doctors, that cast on your right arm, a hospital stay, aftercare. That'll be thousands upon thousands of dollars. Hey, speaking of medical, I was thinking the other day about that time you got sick a couple of years ago. Remember, I took a week of vacation time to take care of you. I held your head while you puked, and I cleaned everything up when you didn't quite make it to the bathroom. I called the doctor and went to the pharmacy to get you some medicine. When you were better in a week, you went right back to ragging on me and calling me childish. I wonder how well old Sly will take care of you the next time you get sick. Well, I've got to go. Give Sly a call when you think he's done with his other affair. Have a nice life, Beverly." She just sat there, weeping silently as I walked away. I felt nothing. After that, a strange calm settled, a period of uneventful days. I checked in with Lindsay occasionally. She grew increasingly alarmed by Sly's insidious grip on Bev, and in time, Lindsay distanced herself from the toxic influence. Then one evening, as I returned home and approached my front door, I was ambushed, a brutal tackle on my own lawn. I'd been hyper-vigilant against potential attacks, but this one came from nowhere. The assailant, masked and menacing, knocked the breath from me and twisted my arm behind my back. He snarled into my ear, demanding the shoebox of money, commanding me to force the DA to drop the charges. It was unmistakably Sly. I was utterly defenseless. Yet my car clicker remained clutched in my hand. I slammed the panic button. The piercing alarm rent the quiet evening. Sly, enraged, clocked me on the back of the head. Then he scrambled to his feet and vanished into the darkness as porch lights flickered on across the neighborhood, and curious faces peeked out from behind curtains. I bellowed for someone to call 911. Minutes later, a patrol car materialized. I wasn't badly enough hurt for an EMS ride, and Sly was long gone. Not a single neighbor could identify him, and so he escaped justice for the assault. A far worse shock awaited me the next day when I called my daughter and recounted the horrifying incident. "Dad," she began, her voice trembling, "I didn't want to tell you, but I had a run-in with Sly, too. Mom called me wanting to talk. I told her we could, but not at the apartment. She asked me to pick her up, but when I arrived, she pulled me inside onto her couch. Then Sly emerged and he started talking to me. He said that since Mom couldn't perform very well in bed with her injuries, I had to take up the slack. He said she owed him and that I was payment." I looked at her and she just stared at the floor, silent. Sly commanded, "Tell her to do it." Mom finally looked up at me and whispered, "Please, baby, go along with him. It won't be so bad, and I really need you to do this for me." Then he advanced, seizing my wrist, pulling me up. He declared we were going to the bedroom. My right hand was already on the pepper spray in my purse. As he yanked me, I blasted him in the face. He screamed, clutching his eyes, and I grabbed my purse, trying to pull Mom out the door, but she pulled away, moving towards him. I screamed at her to come on, but she was helping him into the bathroom. So I left. I can't believe my own mom tried to pimp me out to that bastard. I don't know if I could ever forgive her for that. A primal fury surged through me as it would any father. My hand twitched, envisioning the Beretta cheetah in the bedroom. I almost went for it. But my daughter, bless her, calmed me, reminding me she was unharmed and to focus on the future. I made Patty promise to stay at school until the trial concluded, to always have protection with her. She swore she'd only venture out with other students, never alone. Slowly, I regained control. Sly had told me to talk to the DA, but he certainly didn't anticipate the conversation we actually had. I played the recording of my daughter's harrowing tale, then reminded him of Sly's attack on me. The DA asked if I wanted to go easier on Bev, perhaps drop the charges. "Absolutely not," I declared. "I want you to ask for the max. Bev is utterly under the control of this serpent, and the only way I see to save her is to tear her away from him. A few months in jail might just straighten her out." The DA concurred and the trial surged forward. I felt a fragile security at home and work, but moments of vulnerability lingered. The journeys to and from the parking garage were always fraught with danger, but the drives to and from work were the most unnerving. Our house lay nestled in a subdivision some 10 miles down a remote ranch road. For a 15-mile stretch, it was the sole turnoff. The only other structures a series of vast ranches with locked gates. So I was acutely aware of every vehicle on that long drive home. The Beretta remained a constant companion in the car. One evening, mere days before Bev's trial was set to begin, I spotted headlights in my rearview mirror, some 2 miles down the road to home. A prickling dread crawled over my skin. Soon the pickup was a mere 20 feet from my back bumper, doing 55 miles an hour. I punched 911 on my phone and the record button on my small recorder, easing my speed up to 70. The pickup clung to me. I provided a breathless, running commentary to the 911 operator, begging her to contact the detective who'd investigated my earlier beating. The pickup maintained its relentless pressure for another 5 miles as I frantically relayed the unfolding drama. The pistol lay on the seat beside me, the safety already off. I realized a bridge loomed ahead, spanning a small creek bed with old-fashioned concrete abutments. I knew with sickening certainty that Sly or whoever was behind the wheel would make his move there, attempting to force me off the road. With 100 yards to go before the bridge, the pickup accelerated, surging around me. I caught a fleeting glimpse of Bev's face in the passenger seat as it drew abreast. I slammed the brakes, hard enough to initiate a slide, but as fate would have it, not so hard that I lost control. The truck veered in front of me, missing my front bumper thanks to my evasive braking. My car spun sideways onto the shoulder, its rear teetering precariously on the slope down to the creek bed. I scrambled out, clutching the pistol, my phone, and the recorder, and plunged down the steep gravel slope, seeking refuge beneath the bridge. As I descended, I saw the pickup's brake lights illuminate. I stumbled in the dark, feeling my way under the bridge. This was a prime spot for a rattlesnake, seeking the warmth of the ground, but it wasn't a snake I feared at that moment. My breath came in ragged gasps as I sought the safest hiding spot. Finally, I stopped, chambering around in the Beretta. I waited, but for a long moment, silence reigned. The cell phone connection to 911 had vanished. I fumbled to redial in the darkness, but beneath the bridge was no place for a signal. I was stranded with no idea if help was on its way. At least I no longer heard the growl of that pickup above. I wouldn't move, I told myself. I'd spend the night there if I had to. An eternity seemed to pass, though it was likely only 5 or 10 minutes, before I heard the distant wail of sirens approaching from the same direction as I had. If they were that far behind, they'd never catch the pickup. The patrol car apparently stopped when they spotted my car on the shoulder. I began to clamber back up the slope, leaving the Beretta beneath the bridge. I raised my hands, pleading with them not to shoot. As I neared the road, I saw 2 patrol cars strategically positioned across the road, blocking both lanes. At almost the same instant, I heard sirens from the opposite direction and saw the pickup hurtling back towards the bridge. I hit the dirt. From my vantage point on the ground, I saw little, but I heard the pickup screech to a halt. Officers shouted orders for the driver to exit and get on the ground. More squad cars trailing the pickup pulled up behind it. Soon it was over. Bev and Sly, the snake, were in custody, charged with attempted murder. I was rattled, but I went home, showered, and tried in vain to sleep. When your spouse is arraigned on multiple felony counts, divorce proceedings seem to glide along with astonishing ease. I received an outpouring of sympathy from the judge and encountered no resistance from Bev or her utterly flustered lawyer. Bev, frantic to minimize her time behind bars, offered through her lawyer to cede virtually everything in the divorce settlement in exchange for any assistance I could provide in reducing her sentence. During the sentencing hearing, I testified that she had been a good wife and mother until she'd fallen under Sly's malevolent influence. I told the judge that, in time, I could even forgive her for attempting to kill me. I conveniently omitted the details of her probable infidelity with other men and the years of torment she had inflicted upon my life. I couldn't decipher her expression in the courtroom, and I never spoke to her directly during that period. In the end, Sly went to prison for a very long time. It was not his first offense. I fervently hope his cellmate is a large, sweaty man named Bubba, who finds his backside as irresistible as candy. The judge was kinder to Bev, but it would be at least 3 years before she was eligible for parole. It's been roughly 4 years since Bev was incarcerated. I heard from the DA's office that she was released on parole about a year ago. I waited, expecting to hear from her. I know she hasn't contacted Patty either. Revenge, while satisfying, pales in comparison to resolution. I found myself unable to shake the lingering echoes of all that had transpired, and so I did something I never would have anticipated. I looked up my ex-wife, Bev. "This is Jack. I have something of yours, and I want to give it back." I was calling the halfway house where Bev now resided. For a few agonizing seconds, I didn't know if she'd even heard me. No response. "Beverly, I have a shoebox to give you. Do you hear me? Can we meet someplace so I can return it?" I thought she might hang up, but eventually her voice, hesitant and strained, emerged. "Where? When?" "I don't care. We can meet somewhere neutral, like a restaurant, or you can come by the house. Whatever you want. On Sunday, maybe. Are you available on Sunday?" More silence. "I'll be by on Sunday at 2 o'clock. The phone went dead. How do you prepare for a meeting with your ex-wife, the mother of your child, the woman who tried to kill you, a convicted felon? I made lemonade and cookies and dressed casually. I opened the door for Bev. There was no attempt by either of us to even shake hands, let alone hug. We simply exchanged a quiet, "hello," and I motioned her into the den. Her hair was much shorter than before, and her expression was hard, little to no makeup. She was 50 now, and she looked every bit of it. On the coffee table sat drinks, cookies, and the shoebox. She sat opposite the couch, and I offered her refreshments, which she declined. Did she suspect I'd try to poison her? Okay, if you don't want lemonade and cookies, I guess the only other thing is the shoebox and anything we might have to say to each other. What's the catch, Jack? What do you want in return? Is there anything left in it? Her suspicion still clung to her. No catch, Bev. It's all there, except for a few thousand I combined with some of my own money and gave to Patty when she got married for a down payment on her home. If you want, she will gladly start paying you that money back any time you like." From Bev's face, I could tell she had no idea Patty was married. "Patty's been married for 2 years now, and you're a grandmother." I saw the strain in her eyes, the fight to hold back emotion. "The little girl's name is Shannon, Beverly Evans. Shannon is the name of her other grandmother." Bev's eyes were now welling up, despite her best efforts. "Bev, I know you haven't been in contact with Patty for some time. There is a path for you two to reconnect if you'd like. I can pave the way for you." Beverly nodded, tears now streaming down her cheeks. I reached for a box of tissues on the side table and placed them on the coffee table. "So I'll give you a short version of what's happened with me unless you plan to leave right away." She was wiping her cheek, trying to compose herself. "Patty found a great guy, Stan Evans. He's into computers and networks. They seem to really work well together. She's a great mom, and they are so devoted to each other. Martha and I didn't last but a few months. She's too young for me, and she just needed me temporarily until she could get on with her life. She found another soldier, and she moved away. I date some, but I break things off if it looks like a relationship is beginning. I'm better off by myself. I'll stay single." Silence hung heavy for a moment. I'm going to say some things now that are strictly for my benefit, but you might get something out of them. I hope you do. I couldn't wait to see you in jail. I hated you and pictured you dead many times. And then, when they locked you up, my feelings began to change. I found that I couldn't enjoy my victory, if that's what it was. So I quit hating you, even though you didn't ask me to. I forgave you. The reason is that I know you're not 100% to blame. I failed to understand you until it was too late, and we never could communicate with each other. We only fought. Beverly had regained her composure and looked up from the floor. Her hard edge was back. Still, she didn't speak. That's really about it, short and sweet, unless you have things to say to me. And if you don't care for refreshments, I won't keep you any longer. You probably have important stuff to do. She stood and picked up the box, heading towards the front door. For the first time since I'd pushed her out years before, I called to her. It doesn't make any difference now, and you don't need to answer unless you want to, but I'm wondering, all that time we were together, and especially that last day you were here, it was obvious that you saw me as weak. Do you still think I'm weak, Bev? She stopped, one hand on the doorknob, and looked back at me. I hate you. You're cruel, and you destroyed my life. She paused. But I don't think you're weak. And then she was gone. Ladies and gentlemen, since you've listened to the end of this story, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments which state you're watching from. Let's see what percentage of elite viewers make it to the end. And please kindly turn your attention to the screen after this message. There you'll find a full playlist of thrilling stories, a subscribe button for the channel, and our most captivating story. Click, enjoy, and thank you.